as a registered nurse, when I meet someone in my office, I take a few seconds to look at the person, their body language, their eye contact, and how they introduce themselves to me and how the energy is flowing at the beginning. And, with time, it becomes easier to palpate that. When someone walks into my office and I can gauge that they're not doing well or they're a little bit irritable, or when I greet them in the waiting room, I'll just start off, instead of "how are you today?" because I know that they're here to receive a result or to receive care, and oftentimes or someone's not feeling well. So I'll just start the day with, "How's your morning so far? How was your commute here?" And that starts the conversation. And then I like to call it and say, "It looks like you're upset today," or "You don't look like you feel like you want to be here right now," or "How are things? How are you sitting with our visit today?" And I think that grounds the energy, and it shows the person that you're picking up on the fact that they might not want to be here, or that they're afraid about a treatment, or that they're concerned about a diagnosis. So right from the beginning, I want to create a safe space that I'm paying attention, and I'm not just here to cycle the person through quickly. I had a reversed situation once. It was a busy week, a lot of things happening clinically, and I'm very chipper when I'm at work. And there was a patient whom I had been working with for quite some time, and I was not having a good day. And I thought I had a good poker face. And he said to me, "Wow, are you okay? Like, you seem a little bit off today." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, you just seem a little bit off today. Is everything okay?" And I said, "Yes, everything is fine." And I changed my approach, but what was transformative was the reflective piece afterwards. And it just grounded me in the moment. I'm like, "Oh, okay, so I'm not on my A game right now." Person is picking up on it. And they had enough courage to tell me that, something was different. And the other thing that I thought about was, oftentimes there are power differentials in healthcare. So you have the consumer of healthcare, and then you have the professional who has a perceived power. So I've noticed that sometimes I've had patient conversations where they didn't feel comfortable talking to their other nurse or to their doctor in terms of how they engage with them. Maybe they were rushed or the professional was abrupt. And so I realized that, if a lot of people are feeling that way, that they might not feel empowered, even just to say, "Hey, how are you doing? You look a little bit off today." Then it's up to me as the healthcare professional with the more perceived power to lead this interactional dance and say, "Hey, how are you today?" And then when I'm rushed, for instance, like, let's say if a patient is used to me spending 30 minutes with them and today I have 15 minutes, I'm going to say, "Hey, I know usually we have 30 minutes together, but today I have 15 minutes. And it's not because I don't want to spend this time with you. It's because I have these other patients to see or whatnot." And the interaction is transparent, and then the person knows I'm not BSing them, and they're okay with that 15 minutes, and it's a good, solid interaction. So being very transparent with each other is important. To do good work, we need to check our own privilege. So myself as a white, cisgendered male, that's some of my privilege. The fact that I'm educated and the fact that I have a good paying job, that is some of my privilege. And I need to be aware and to check that. That conversation happened a long time ago with a patient who actually said, "You know what, like, yeah, you're kind of like my nurse and you're an ally, but you really don't know, you don't know my lived experience." And when I started to work more within an anti-oppression framework and focusing more on the social determinants of health and my privilege, I stopped kind of saying, "Hey, I as well have experienced homophobia." And now it's, how can I be an ally to you? As healthcare providers, we need to meet our patients halfway, right? And we meet halfway because we're two human beings having an interaction. We're interacting together and we're exchanging together. So I might have information about your health, but it's your information and it's your health. And how would I want someone to speak with me when the tables are turned. So it's meeting halfway and saying, hey, you've done some testing recently. These are your results. Let's talk about it. And seeing where the person is. Some people get whatever results and are able to process quickly, and we do the treatments, or do we do the enrollment? And sometimes people need more time, and it's meeting people halfway. And we have to make sure that the capacity is in place always when interacting and meeting people halfway, because when we can't meet people halfway, when we're talking about difficult things, then people don't come back. And then when people don't come back, it impacts their health, but it also impacts the health of their communities. My perspective as a registered nurse and as a staunch advocate for harm reduction, if someone disclosed to me that they were using crystal meth, that they're slamming, then I would want to know more about that. Are you using alone? Are you using with other people? Are you using in the context of sex? Or are you using in the context of having to stay up because you don't have a place to stay? Do you have access to clean equipment? Do you have access to unused equipment or new equipment? Are you sharing your equipment? And working from that lens, you need to be very person-centered. And again, this is meeting the person halfway. As a healthcare provider, I don't want people to inject drugs, right? From a health and scientific perspective, but that's not the reality. That's not what is happening. And the art of caring for someone is meeting the person where they're at and working with them. So whatever you bring to the table, okay, well, let's work with that. And how can you continue living your life and maybe make safer decisions for yourself, better decisions for yourself, sometimes, most of the times, once in a while. And when people don't feel judged, they'll come back and see you. In fact, I've had a few patients wait for me for 2 hours in the waiting room. They won't see another nurse because when you come to my office, it's a safe space, and then we're going to talk and meet halfway. In terms of other clinics, in terms of setup and design, is you might have the pride flag or have some literature in your room or what's being showed onto your TV, and have policies or things that are in place that are visible. But I think what makes a big difference is when you come to the waiting room and you greet someone. Hi. Hey, Francisco. How are you? I'm ready. Okay. Right? Versus, Mr. So-and-so, you're ready? Come to my room. That makes a big difference. And, I've been to a walk-in clinic before, and I felt like I was a number in a processing plant, right? And it's just that first contact makes a big difference.